Hi, everybody. We're getting ready to talk about a very sad event that happened in our nation's history called the Trail of Tears. Let's start off by establishing our compelling questions and our objectives. The two questions that I want you to be able to answer by the time we finish with our time together today are, what was the Indian Removal Act of 1830? And does history always reflect progress? What I mean by that question is we always see history as moving us forward, as progress implies that things always get better. What I want you to reflect on through this lesson is, yes, what was the Indian Removal Act of 1830? But also the bigger picture. As we move forward in history, are we always progressing? Are we always improving and getting better? And our objective for the day, I'm going to move my picture there so you can see it better. The objective for today is I can assess the effects of U.S. expansion on Native Americans by taking notes and writing a summarizing paragraph. So at the end of our time together, you are going to write a paragraph that will summarize all of your learning. But don't worry, we are going to set you up to write this paragraph really, really easily because we're using a strategy called Write to Learn. As you go through this lesson, you're going to be pausing the video in some specific places and you're going to write about what you're learning. You're going to answer some questions. Here in the Google form that you've been looking at, you can see that there's a place for you to make a copy of a document. That document looks like this. And you can see that here's some space for you to take some notes on a video you're going to watch. And then we have several questions that you are going to answer along the way. You can put your answer here in these boxes. Then when you get to the end, it's going to be very easy for you to answer these essential questions and to write your summary paragraph because all you're going to have to do is go back through all of these answers you've already established. So let's get into our content today. First, I want you to think about what do you already know about the U.S. expanding its borders westward? You may have heard the term westward expansion. Think for a moment, what do you already know about westward expansion? Well, one of the things you may already know is Lewis and Clark. Lewis and Clark were put in charge of something called the Corps of Discovery. And it's an expedition that was instigated by Thomas Jefferson, where he said, hey guys, I want you to go all the way across this continent and find what's there. So it was the Corps of Discovery expedition. You can see the dates there on the screen. In 1804, they started out there near St. Louis. They went all through the northwestern United States, ended up all the way in what would be today, present day, Washington State, making all of these discoveries along the way. You may also know that they were helped along the way by a lot of Native American tribes who they met. You may also remember Sacagawea, who was the Native American woman who was a guide and a translator for them. There's also this westward expansion myth that was called manifest destiny. And I'm referring to it as a myth because it's really the idea that it was the destiny of these white people who landed on the eastern shore of this continent to take over the entire continent. So I'm referring to it as a myth because I don't believe that that was actually true. They believed it very deeply. The people saw this continent and the land as wide open. However, we know that it wasn't actually wide open. We know there were actually people here before us. So how can you discover something that's actually a place where people already live? That doesn't quite fit with me. So I'm calling this the myth of manifest destiny. All of these things are happening on this continent where Native Americans already lived and had lived for thousands of years. So I know that you know something about the various tribes that already lived here. I want you to think, do you know anything about the Trail of Tears? If you don't know anything about the Trail of Tears yet, I just want you to think about what does that title imply? A trail, that's a path that you follow. But tears implies that along that trail, nobody's happy to be there. There are tears being shed. People are very sad. So we know that we're getting ready to learn about something that isn't one of the more cheerful parts of our history. I want us to start off by watching a video. And you're going to use your Right to Learn document to take some notes during this video. This is the place where you can take those notes. This is what the video looks like, and you can find the link to the video here in your Google form. You're going to click on this link. It will take you to the website where you're going to watch about a 5-minute video. And I want you to take notes in this space. So let's talk about, how do we take notes? What should you be writing down? Well, the advantage that you have is that because you are doing this virtually, you can actually pause the video at a point that is important to you. If there's something that you want to write down, you can pause that video and write it down. By the way, if you would like to make notes by hand, if you're more comfortable writing with pen and paper, please feel free to print this document off if you have access to that. If you don't have access to a printer, no worries. You can actually put your notes right here into this document. But that means, typing sometimes is a little bit slower. Feel free to pause that video wherever you need to in order to make those notes. I want to talk about one more thing before I send you off to watch this video. The tribes that were removed were the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole, and they're sometimes referred to even now as the 5 civilized tribes. So let's think about this word here, civilized. The 5 civilized tribes. The reason they were called that is because these 5 Indian tribes did have deep culture. The Cherokee, in fact, had their own written language. Their young people all went to school. They were a very, what we would consider, advanced culture. However, calling them the 5 civilized tribes, what does that imply? That implies that the other Native American tribes in North America were not civilized. Let's go ahead and call that what it is, which is racist, right? This isn't okay to imply that, oh, these guys are civilized, these guys are savages. That was how they were viewed at the time. And unfortunately, a lot of this language lingers still today. So when you see that, just know this is not an okay thing to say. I'm putting this in here for that very purpose, so that you will know what they're referring to when they say these 5 civilized tribes. It's kind of like how, Columbus discovered America. Okay, whatever. So you're going to now, the video is going to shut off here in a second. You are going to go into your Google Doc, click on this link. You'll be able to take notes as you watch this video, and then I will see you in the second part. Bye-bye.